Now a lot of people say, oh, the cam switches were working, I'm not going to take them apart. They've been in there 60 years, they need sorting out, either replacing or stripping and cleaning. Plus these have been in water, so these have got to come apart. But you think, well, how do you get that apart? Now if you look very, very carefully down the side, on both sides, I'm going to put this pointer on it so you can see it. There. There's a pinhole. Looks like a little pinhole there. I'm going to push that on there, and I've flattened this needle off, and I'm going to, what it is it's a little brass pin. Tap, felt it go in. Now I'm going to do the one at the other side. Gone in. Now hopefully that cover will come off like that, and there is water in there obviously. That's the operating plunger, which sits square in there like that, and these are your contacts inside there. Pushes down, you can see that moving, that is your micro switch. So that'll be water in there, and they will be dirty. So I'm going to take this end one out first, keeping my finger on the other one so it doesn't spring up. That one is a longer screw so it can get back in easy. So there's the dirty contact. You can see the dirty contact. So we'll put that there. That one's going to be clean. That's the dirty contact, and you see the dirty contact underneath as well. If I get it close, yeah, you just see it down there. So if you bring this one out, doing it so you can see it come out. So that's that come out like so. So that needs cleaning both sides, and that one in there doesn't have to come out, it just needs to be cleaned. Got the camera in the right place. So I need to clean that one down there, clean both of these, both sides. So I'll give those a clean up, and then we'll put it back together again. Now the moving contact one has got grooves in it that collects all of the rubbish. I don't know if you can see that if I show it to the camera. Right on the very, it's got little grooves in there. I've cleaned them out with a needle. The other two, the one in the base and this other one, is just flat. So you just need to get the stuff, any garbage off, and if there's a dentation there, an indentation, just take the metal down till the indentation's gone. I'm just scraping metal off till it comes to be nice and smooth. And of course I'll test them with a meter before I put them back in. And you can see that those little switches have been going, opening and closing, every 3 minutes for 60 years. Phew, long time.
It's 3:00 p.m.
That's that one. Now we'll clean this one up. See, I'm not even taking it off the harness. Okay, putting it back. Have that one ready. This one, we put that screw through there, like so, and pull it back so those two little things catch into the groove in the cutout. So that's now holding it like that. And then we need a pair of long nose pliers ready. So now, holding the contact, I'm going to put it down to its screw base, start the screw off, and then I'm going to load this spring. I haven't tightened that really tight yet. Now I'm going to load this spring another way. I'm trying to do it so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to push, hold that there, I'm just going to push those two springs, I'm going to load it downwards, like that. Right, that's now put down. I'm now going to hold that down in that position while I put this clip in, this other contact with the long screw. Let go of it. Load it again. Quite strong is that spring, and I forgot to put a lot of pressure on it. I was concentrating on putting this screw in, and let the pressure off my finger. And of course I've got 3 to do on this one. Some machines have got 6 on, some Rock-Olas. They need doing, they've got to be done. If they don't, you might get troubles, and it might work without, but you may get trouble in the future. So that's now in position. Now I'm looking down and they're not exactly square, so I'm just going to loosen that screw slightly, just square those blades up, hold them in position and tighten it up so it's right in the middle. Now it's tight. So now that should click up and down. Perfect. So when that goes on, you press that little button. It's a lovely clean click. That's great. And we'll put a meter on it before we actually put it back in the machine, just to make sure they are working. So to hold that on now, those pins that we knocked in can't get out because they are now inside there. Can't get them out. So that's where they stay. So it's the old super glue, which works great. Put some super glue onto a bit of plastic there. That way I don't get too much squirting it in. I don't want to get any in there, getting on the switch. So I'm just going to put it on the end cap there. Tiny bit on the side where those pins are. You notice I'm wearing gloves. Yeah, right. How many times have I stuck my fingers to these? 1 or twice. Right. That will not come off. And the pin goes toward the screw side. The operating pin. Stick that in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's stuck. That's great. It's a little cheap old meter, which is great for continuity, stuff like this. So I can put it down on the table and I can hold that on there, and just by pushing down I'm going to operate the switch. You can see the dial, hopefully. Now we'll do the same on that one. That should be open circuit. perfect. So that one's done. Now I've got these two to do. So that's the outer one, it's got the white plug on. That's the middle one, that's got no plugs on. That's the inner one that goes to the red switch, to that red plug there. Right, so I'll crack on and do these other two. You don't need to watch them. If you want to watch it again, rewind it. Right, so I've done all three cam switches, checked them, they're all okay. So now these cam switches need to go on here, much easier to fit them whilst there's no mech, the rest of the mech in. So we know that the one with the red lead goes to the inside, the one with no leads goes to the middle, and the one to the outside with a little piece of cardboard between them goes like that. So that's the order they go in, with that bit of metal in between. So putting it together is the easiest thing in the world, not. So I'm going to put one screw in first, if I can find where I put them. There they are. This looks like I don't know what I'm doing, doesn't it? It's like trying to teach an octopus to juggle this. Right. So these two go on the outside. So I've got two screws through there. Next bit is the cardboard spacer. Trying to put it so you can see what I'm doing. Cardboard spacer, middle one with no plugs on goes there. Now that is now going to go, and that one's going to go on them as well, there. Those are the operating levers, so we're going to swing that out of the way for the time being, push those through just enough. I've got to swing that one down now. I've got to get this other one on. Get this other switch on. See what I mean about trying to do that when everything else is there? You've no chance. It's a nightmare. And that's got to go down that side, which it will when these are all tightened up. Like that. So now push the screws back out because they're in the way, slide that down. I've already put some oil on this shaft so those are really free. You want to spin on the shaft, you don't want it spinning the shaft. Right, that's all the way through now. And they're operating those are the adjusters which we'll talk about when we get to it. Red on the inside, plug at white on the outside, none in the middle, so they're in the right position. So now we'll put the clip on the back, which is impossible to put on when everything else is there. It's alright taking it off because you undo it and it falls off. This needs to be quite tight. Okay, so that rest there, and that's roughly where the screw holes are. Okay, so you can see now how this cam operates these switches. So what we can do is now we can put those 4 bolts in that hold this on. Now the one in this corner I'm not going to put in because the same bolt holds in the carousel motor. So we'll just put this back corner in, so that's 3 in. They're tight, but they're not nipped up really tight. So that should now work like that, if that was in the right place. Okay, so the next thing to go on is, before we do the cam switch, is to put this lever on that operates that. If you remember, this is the one with the 2 springs on. So we need to get a bit of grease on this little baby. That's going to go inside the carousel, and a little bit of oil on its spindle. In there, and a little bit on that one there. That'll do. A drop on that one. That's good. So let's put that in there. That lever goes between these 2 plates there, goes up and down, and that rod goes into there. But we need a thick spring and a slightly thinner spring. So the thick spring goes on first, then a small washer, like that, goes up there like that. Then we want a small washer, but not that one because that's the wrong size. Must be that one. The thinner spring goes on there, and now we've got that horrible clip, that little clip that I hate, to go on the other spring goes. Except that's the wrong one. That was too small. That's the one. There, I think. No, it isn't that one. It is the first one. It's that one. So I need another washer on top of that. Now, so now I've got to compress that spring. Right. Now you see what I tried to do. Right, now I'm holding that now. I can get that clip in. Now we just squeeze it together. That's that done. So that goes up and down now with the carousel, and that'll determine left or right. So when the carousel goes up, that will now go that way. So that's good. That's in. So now that we've got that in, we can actually put in the main shaft. There's all the grooves in there cleaned out. That's going to go onto that little silver bit. That's going to run around in there and change direction. Move that lever up and down. So I'm going to bang some new grease in there. One of the few things that actually does need greasing. Right. Drop of oil on the shaft there, because that's going through the main bearing in the centre. There and there. Okay. Put that there out of the way. So now I can take this off for the time being. So now what we need on here, I might have to move the camera so you can see what we're going to be putting on there. So the first thing to go on there is the cog that runs this. The one that wouldn't come off, I had to heat it up if you remember. That meets up with that. So whilst I'm feeding this in, I'm watching the other side now, because I've got to feed in this little silver piece into one of the grooves. Doesn't matter which groove goes in. Right. If you look down there, we can see that little silver piece there where my finger is now in one of the grooves. So when that spins round, it should change direction and move that lever. Come round again, lift it up, go round again and drop down. So that's in the groove. That's in the groove, baby. In the groove. Great. That shaft's right in now, right up to the bush. Those two cogs are now geared together. Doesn't matter where they go. Tighten that up. Tighten that up. Now what goes on there is the writing with the weight on it. That will sit on there with some oil. It's phosphor bronze bearing. Not got a mark on it for wear, and it's been on 60 years. So that spins round. And that spins round with that motor that I didn't want to put in that motor that goes underneath there, and that drives that round, so we'll put that on in a minute and we will test those coils. So to hold that in place we need that collet, which is that thing with the screws in, and they go into that groove there. Nip them up. nipped up. I think I nipped those up, I'll just check them. Yeah, that's right. Beautiful. So, we'll do the cam switches first and then we will come back, check those. The cam switches are really important, really important. So let's put the camera down to there. Let's put that on. So when this comes down to rest and completes its turn, you'll notice that these cam switches are moving. I'm just going to complete that turn. Get it so it opens the teeth. Right, that's in the play position now. That should just click into the slot. It's going a long way. It's clicking just about on the edge. It needs to click halfway up. So I need to adjust that one up a little bit. Now, I can only do it the once, but what I'll try and do is just loosen those screws off that we tightened up on the front. And see if I can lift the cam switches up fractionally, which I know I can. And after that, it's going to have to be the adjusters. So I've just loosened them off. See if I can lift them a tad. Right, I've pushed them up half a millimetre to see if it makes a difference to the way that switch works. So that switch should be clicking That one's perfect. This would stop the motor. That there, that I'm moving it down, it clicks on, off, on, off. That would be when it's on the edge of the cam. So that's nice and clear there. So that one's working good. Now we've got to set those two up. So when it's going in the turning back, it's closing that one. That one's dropping, that one's clicking nicely there. Click. We'll come back to there. And that clicked in there. That one clicked in nicely. It's a bit late actually. I'd like it to click about there, not right down, right at the base. So I'm going to back that one off fractionally so it can be about there when it clicks. So this is the one I want to back this one off, and this looks like an Allen key but it's not. It's like a cross between an Allen key and a torque set, and it's a really weird thing. You just pray that somebody hasn't forced something in, that works. So I'm just going to back that off a tad and just see where that switch works now, but it's in that groove. Just going to back it off a tad more. Yeah, happy with that now. Cool. I've moved the camera. On the back of this cam there, you'll see the groove in the inside of that. We're going to put a little bit of grease on that pin. What goes in there is, when I put this pillar on, when I bolt this down, get the cable out of the way, that lever, those two pins there are going to sit over that, and that lever is going to go into that slot. That's the thing that lifts, that will lift the record off the turntable. That lifts the record off the turntable, and then that thing turns, that cam turns it, brings the needle back away from the turntable. So that's going to get bolted on down there, but before I bolt it on, I've got to make sure that pin goes into that shaft. So I'm going to be in the way of the camera, so that's what I'm going to be doing, putting that pin in there with a bit of grease, lining it up with the bolt holes down there, putting the bolts on. Yeah, that's what I'll be doing, with a cup of tea in my hand. Okay, I've bolted this pillar on now. That lever that I tell you about is in that slot. That will get plugged into there. That's you, the eject. I can go out the way. So let's just watch that mechanism work from there. So if I turn this cog, if it was bringing a record out, cam switches are moving, it's bringing the record out. I'll put my hand there because that's where the rest will be. That will bring it to there. It will release the record, and as it's released the record, the arm is coming out, and now it will drop down onto the record and in play position. Now that's down, these are free, those are free, so that would now be playing, and it would come across. When it gets to the end of the record, the contacts that are bolted to the side of this pillar, it touches those contacts. It would now go back into the reverse to take the record off, and that would now lift it off the record, move it out of the way, then grip the record, which it's done, grip it, put the record back in the carousel. When it's right back in the carousel and those switches close, it will open the circuit for the carousel to carry on going round. That would then go around searching for the next record. So hopefully, if you don't know anything about jukeboxes, you get a bit of insight. So we've got another lever down here. It's got a cam sticking out which goes onto that nut and bolt, if you remember. That moves all these levers down here. I don't want to put them on just yet. Reason being is when I put the motor on, I can't get to that screw, and I want this clear to get a long screwdriver down there. Once I've done that, I can put this end on. But once I've done that, I can't move this by hand, by turning that, because the motor will be in the way. So the next thing to put on really would be probably the carousel motor, but leave it loose so that I can turn when I put the carousel in. Yeah, that's going to be best, I think. There's lots of different ways of doing it, but I'm looking for the easiest. So the carousel motor bolts that way so that you can operate it from, that'll be the front of the machine, this is the back, so you can operate that if you need to turn it by hand. That bolts up there and engages with that big cog, so that comes up there like that, bolts from underneath. So it's going to be a lot easier for me to turn it over on its side, move this rack out of the way so you can see where I'm bolting it onto. So I'll turn that over now. Okay, this is the upside, or the underside. So this is where the motor goes. Not that way. It goes that way. No, it goes that way. What am I talking about? Idiot. Right, so we'll put one in there. and one of these bolts is the last bolt that holds the lifter mechanism on. It's only got 3 bolts in at the moment, and this is the 4th one. This is the one that's got a slot head because it's difficult to get to, so it's in there like so. That's why I've turned it upside down so you can see what's going on. Let's see if I can get a screwdriver on that. No. Both those need the slot headed one. That one without the slot head goes at the end because you can get to that. So that's one wrong. So that needs to go into that one. Difficult now, and it's on its side. Imagine what it's like when it's in the machine. That's the one I can get to, so that goes in there. I've got big washers on because it'll slide and you can adjust it like that. So that's why it's got a screwdriver head on it, and those two that you can't get in with the spanner when it's in the machine. So I've got to get that in there now. Magnetic screwdriver please. See if I can get that in there. Difficult to get in there. I'll get my fingers in first. Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah, I can turn that and turn the carousel, as you can see. So I'll just line that up and tighten it up, sod it. If it's not in the right place, we'll put a drill on it, spin the motor. They don't actually need grease, but it just quietens them down a bit if they've got a bit of grease on the teeth. Just don't like grease blagged all over the place. Little is more. That should spread round, I think. That'd be good. Don't need to oil the motor because I've oiled the motor. We'll plug this lot in later. So, that's carousel, that will turn that. As you can see, it's turning it. Good. Fabulous. So whilst this is on its side, I can put that screw in there, that cable clamp. That goes under there with 3 screws that we took out. Just bolt that under there. There's slots in the chassis so that it can be adjusted and slid up. One in. Two in. Right, Excuse me, I swallowed a rabbit. Right, I'm going to just check these fuses at the coils work. So I'll put 28 volts on there, DC. I've got 28 volts, so that should be one of them. That should be the other. Those are the write-in coils that write in the selections, and the ones that read out and reset coils are these. So I need to check those as well. So red is negative, and the other two are these two here. So they're both working. That's cool. So whilst we're on this, I'm going to have to take these apart, this one, because this picks up the circuit with the pins and it touches that little tab there that springs in and out. And that touches the contact at the back and they get dirty, so I'm going to take a minute little screw out, take that contact out and clean both of those two contacts. That's what picks up, those are what they would miss selections with if they're not making a good contact when it spins round and hits the pin. So I'll do that, you don't need to see, that's just a little teeny screw and you clean the contact. Good. Now I'm just putting the lifter motor in loosely, not putting it in. I put this bracket on 2 bolts underneath because I've got to put all these little stay there, I've got to put all these little link things on, and they're a bit difficult to put on after you've bolted everything up, so I'm just going to put this on loose. It's just hanging. That's just, so this is the link, that's the piece there, so that hooks into that hole, turns round. You can't do it when the carousel's in. That goes up to the top somewhere. When that other plate's on, it hooks onto that plate there, and that spring goes down to that hole. Put down there now. Right. Hence the long screwdriver. That's why I didn't want that stuff on this end, so I can get this screw with this long screwdriver all the way underneath there. I might even have to go under that cog, I think. Move that out of the way. The joys of working on a compact machine. I'm not going to tighten these up, just going to leave them slightly loose. Right, I'm going to put the other nut back in the plate now. Of course, when I tighten that up, that will make that unmovable because it's geared up there. At the moment I can move it. So I kind of leave it there and bolt it up. That way I can get to the, I can put the carousel on and that's not in the way. I don't know if I already recorded it or I pressed the wrong button, but I've just bolted this on with 2 screws. That's the main control, and put the clamp underneath. All these plugs plug into the main control box. I might have already said that, I don't know. But I'm going to take this end off now, and I'm going to put on the carousel. So the carousel's in. Just check it's working okay. If I put these on the wrong way around, it'll go around the wrong way. Check that's working. Wrong way. That's cool. Okay. So, final screws to put in there and a clip on the end. So I'll do that now with a fresh cup of tea. And then, okay, time to fit the pin bank. I'll put the clips on there and the rest of the screws, holding that in. Turn the motor by hand so that the lifter arm is back in its position. Move that out of the way. Put down the bottom out of the way. That spins round. A number that you've selected, when it hits the correct pin, it matches up with what you've put on the thing. It would then fire that little trigger, either the A side or the B side, knock that pin out, and then this side, the other bit, will spin round until it finds that pin, then reset that pin and play that record. Basically. So we need to get this through here. That goes underneath. This goes down, that goes to the top, that comes through the centre, like so. And it should line up with all these screws. And the wires are the wrong side. Wants to be at that side. Like that. Out of the way of the screws. Okay. Get those screwed in first. 1, 2, 3, 4. That all lines up at the back, all the pins are lining up. That's good. Washer into there. Okay, so now we need to put the readout wiper on, which is this thing. It's got an adjuster screw there, so if it stops and the record is slightly not in the middle so it won't grab it, it goes by the side of it, it's got to stop so that the arm is right in the middle where the record is, and that's adjustable by this. That depends on where it stops when it hits these pins. That's got a flat on it, so that will go there. In exactly the right position, because that track finishes there and that one there tells the carousel not to go around because none of these pins are out. If any one of those pins were out, that would move that switch like that. That starts the motor. Any one of these will start that motor. Right. That won't go through if it's not exactly on because there's a cutout for it. It goes through now. dropped a washer. I don't know where it's gone. Hopefully that'll fall out somewhere. If not, it'll short out. Not work. Wrong. That old AF spanner. Had that about 60 years. Because nothing on these machines is metric. Because it was well before metric came in. There's not a lot to do after this mech now. It's only the turntable assembly. So that will go around with the carousel. It says, in fact I'll look it up and make sure it does. Where's the plug? There we go. Let's plug the carousel in. Power is on. Fabulous. So if I move the camera, you'll see what happens with this. So when you make a selection, that thing goes round looking for what you've selected. And let's say you've selected that one knocked that pin in like that. Well, if it was right on it, it would. Where are we? Right. And that knocks the pin out at this side. That's the pin at this side. So this would go around looking for it. And as soon as it touches those little screw things, boom, makes a selection. That little lever pops in, resets that, that stops, goes round to its rest position, and the motor stops until somebody else makes another selection. And if you've got loads of pins out, it'll carry on going round till they're all reset and then stop. I love it.